Yep. What's going on, everyone? Happy Cinco de Mayo to all those celebrate. I celebrated today because God is amazing. That's why. Yeah. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you, Matt and Kate. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. My voice is still gone from Friday. So it turns out giving an extra day of rest on the vocal cords does not actually help after a 90-second equalizer. So apologies in advance.
Nah, I believe it. I mean, that would happen after a Friday night game where everything looked to be going away, and then out of nowhere, the flying German saves it. Feels great. How are you doing, Matt? How was your Cinco de Mayo? A Mayo de Cinco.
No. Fine. Yeah, everything's good. Trying to piece together, a better Cinco de Mayo joke. Couldn't get there. But yeah, clearly out there celebrating, how the Mexicans, treated the French just like what Kendrick is treating Drake. Yes, from what I hear.
God.
I don't actually understand any of that stuff that's going on. I just know that apparently he's tearing them up.
So the best way I can explain it to you, Kate, have you been following the Kendrick and Drake beef?
Can you describe it in Kicker's terms?
Okay, so
only loosely.
Okay. So it will be like if Roddy Pascal and Lee Kalishaw had beef, right? And Roddy Pascal was like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw out all the secrets out there. It just made like repeated bangers after bangers after bangers. Like that's what it's like. Like at this point, Drake just needs to stop, go back to doing Degrassi, and call himself Wheelchair Jimmy. For anyone that watched Degrassi growing up, you understand what I'm talking about. It is bad.
So it's like if Kicker or somebody was just writing big time diss tracks on like all the Madison merch constantly.
Yes, honestly. Like if Darren decided just one day at a press conference was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna make this a diss conference. It'd be like that.
Well, I know enough here. And then what? North Carolina FC is the J. Cole. They just pieced out.
Yeah, pretty much. They chose peace, which is not the wrong thing in this situation. They chose peace.
See, I'm with the young people. I know what's up.
There you go. Yeah, for all the hip hop heads, this is generational beef. This is what we've been wanting. Real hatred is back in the streets.
Which is the Tupac? Which is the Biggie?
Neither, because this is real hatred. They ain't friends. They hate each other. Well, Kendrick hates this man, and I love it. This is like Nas Jay-Z-esque beef, where it's like there's no coming back from this, and neither one of them cares, which is fine. Welcome to Hip Hop 101, White America.
Also, I could definitely see Drake, his corny ass, wearing Madison gear.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He's in Kendrick's terms, he's a colonizer, which, man, Friday night was something. Also Friday night was the Kickers playing One Knox. I wasn't at the game because I was at my dad's house watching Orlando clinch Game 6 to go to Game 7, which we lost.
What phrasing right there? Clinch Game 6, and don't worry about the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing else happened after that. But I did keep an eye on the Kickers game, and I was like, so I was kind of like trying to watch both, but I wasn't doing a good job at it. But what I saw was Ryan Shallowy starting goal. So we're definitely going to talk about him starting goal. The Kickers looked very slow from the start. If I'm judging that right. But then out of nowhere, the flying German Adrian Billhart saves the day. Am I right in my assumption? I seem like I'm right.
I think that's a bit oversimplification of how it really happened, but it's a good place to start.
There you go. That's all that matters. All right, so look, this is where we start with. Let's start off with the starting lineup, as we always do. We had Ron Shallowy in goal. We had Dak coming back to the lineup. We had Niels Sarakowski, and who else was the other person in the front three?
Suko.
The rest of the lineup was the same.
There we go.
We have a little Suko on the wing moment, which was an interesting choice.
Yes. And then O'Dwyer as well. First of all, we also saw some surprises on the bench. We saw Nathan Ani come back, Guy Franca. How does it feel to kind of see like the guys that have been quote unquote banged up for the large part of the year start to come back? How was that looking at that starting 18?
I was glad to see it. I think my main question is how healthy everyone was. I hoped we'd see Ani have some minutes if he was healthy enough to make the bench. But he did not actually come in. He was wearing a knee brace. So still don't know how close he is to fully coming back and whether or not him in banged up shape is a better choice over fully healthy 17-year-old Griffin Garnett. So I guess I'm wondering how long of a onboarding process back into the starting 11 it'll be if we're starting real slow with just a bench appearance. No minutes.
Yeah, that was one of the things Darren's talked about in the press conference. He was just like how the amount of injuries has kind of delayed a lot of the stuff they wanted to do. But it was good to see like Ani come back because I think this is his first substitute appearance, right?
Yeah, it's his first time in the team.
Yeah, and God, this is what, his second time?
I think it's his first time.
First time?
Definitely first time playing.
On the bench.
First time playing. Okay. Matter of fact, let's real quick. How did Guy look like on the field? Like,
enormous. He's like the tallest man I've ever seen. He's
what is he, like 6'3"?
Yeah.
And like broad shoulders, like he especially next to Griffin Garnett, and like that is a big man.
Okay. That makes me feel good. I mean,
I've seen him on the concourse. He's good size for a center back, but not like freakish. Like I'm pretty sure he's smaller than Ani.
Oh,
but that's not saying a lot.
Yeah. No,
well, I mean, he might not be as tall, but he's definitely a very well built. And I think one of the things we were talking about after was we brought in Bashua as a target man. Some people may say he's been better or worse at that role, depending on his height to his ability to hold up play, to win balls in the air. So it'd be interesting if we actually have a center back who could, on corner kicks, etc., target, so that we don't have to use a forward as a target man on those set pieces. We had that already in the back line. Griffin isn't quite there yet, so we only kind of have one big CB as an option right now. So that's something that could be useful, is actually having two target men but maybe setting up the forward line a little differently in the Miami style rather than a Bashua style.
Yeah, I feel like this team still got a lot of, like, we still haven't seen the full essence of this team yet, because I don't know if y'all saw it on social media, but Emmy dropped his Instagram photos of him running and whatnot. It was like, ooh, this looks good. I mean, like, unless we know that Emmy's coming back maybe soon, is like I saw him with football boots on, when not running. I'm like, okay.
I don't know if I'd say it looked good, those photos and videos. I mean, those were like, there were some base rehab, sort of things right there, which is shocking considering what's been delaying him was his finger the whole time.
Yeah. Well, no, it was the finger, and then Darren,
Elliot.
maybe 2-3 weeks ago, huh? Well, yeah, true.
Come on.
I'm just reporting the news. what I've been told. So they said there was Darren kept telling us there was something in the knee. They finally found out what it was. They got cleaned up. Now it was the finger, but I don't know, man. I look as I tweeted out. I am praying to the soccer gods every day. That I need the injury bug to go away this time. But it's good to see Emmy starting to look healthy. I wonder, like, I tend to head to Darren because, like, a lot of this team hasn't been. We haven't seen the full essence of the team yet just because of the injury bug. But I'm wondering, like, what this team will look like once we get, like, Emmy, Bellhart, Neil on this field at the same time. Like, I'm still waiting for that. At its essence.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. What's up?
Anyway.
All right. So yeah, talking about that, but like y'all was there in person in the stadium. Like, how was the vibes of it? Like, this is a Friday night game. Was it much different than how a Saturday game usually is, or was it kind of like the same?
I thought it didn't seem that different than any other one. I mean, decent crowd, like what was it, 4,700, something in that range. It was fine. And this is probably just personal bias, coming into it. I think the later start helps, with these things. Maybe there's just something about it being, getting darker, during the game, that just adds a little bit to the ambiance of it all. But I don't think there's anything noteworthy where it's like, oh my gosh, we got to play all the games on Friday now because the crowd was just popping off that much. But also, it wasn't like worse than any random Saturday crowd either.
Nah, I will say though, like, oh my fault. Okay, you go ahead and go.
Well, I was just gonna say it was the first night of Friday cheers, so I was wondering how attendance would be impacted with that, but because that typically I think Saturday doesn't quite have like an event of that scale that they're directly competing with, except for maybe Squirrels games. So the fact, despite it being the opener for the Friday cheers as well, and it still was a pretty strong attendance, boded well, I think.
Yeah, no, like this game. So this was the first. Is this the first kickers game to be on TV? I think it was, but I can remember.
TV is, I think, a very generous term for Galazzo.
Hey, I know a lot of people was wondering, like, how can I watch this? If you download the Pluto app, it is free. So,
yeah, I'm just saying, if you have to start with, if you download it, is it on TV?
I mean, it could be.
I'm willing to buy it for when they're on CBS, Sports for the Madison game later on in the year, but otherwise, it's just a different version of ESPN Plus that people don't know how to find.
Yeah. No, but watching it at my dad's house, like the TV quality looked great. Like I would say this is a 180 or let's go 120 of what, if you're an OG of Richmond Kickers, the YouTube broadcast used to be. Because it looked great. It looked great on broadcast. Like, so I mean, even with like it being on CBS, there were like extra cameras there and everything. And starting off this game, like it was a couple of rough moments for the kickers. Ryan Shalloway, who started in goal, he made a brilliant save. Like I think within the first 5 or 10 minutes. Like, and normally if you just watch it on ESPN, it's just that one camera going right down the half line. But like here, they had the camera like right behind the goal, so you could really see like how he made the save. And I'm not gonna lie, man. I don't know what it is about Ryan, but somehow like it's kind of like these how can I describe it? Like Ryan is the kind of goalkeeper where he makes these saves where it takes. It's just going to sound bad. Where it requires like no thinking, like it's just straight reaction. And I think that's what he excels at best.
Yeah, I mean, so far it definitely seems that way, right? Because I feel like that was inside the first 5 minutes that happened, in the game. Like, once again, trying to play the ball, out of the back and get ourselves into sloppy situation. And thankfully Ryan was able to make the big save in that moment because I think in the stands as I was coming together and saw the ball get turned over back there. Just a lot of people taking that breath in for the breath out of resignation coming, and then it was like, oh, holy crap, he saved it, let's go. And then a lot of very, very interesting attempts at getting some cello songs going.
Oh, I gotta hear these. Were they good attempts or bad attempts?
Very good.
Okay, good.
Some of them were better than others.
Okay, what was the best one? Let me ask that. Do we have a good one?
I'd say all of them. They're all in progress. We're working hard. We're in development. They're in beta. So we can't give too much away, but drop in the comments whether or not you prefer Hello by Adele or Shallow from A Star Is Born.
Oh my God, I need to hear this. We have a chant for, oh my God, I need to hear this. Yeah, I need to hear this. All right, so we got that. Matt, let me ask you this. First half, we had two former kickers return. One was on the bench, Jalen Carrizo and Stu Ritchie. I saw the cross that Stu Ritchie provided and the goal. Was it as bad as what it seemed? Like, was it like an attempt that just came out of nowhere? Or was it like, all right, Richard are getting pinned in and this goal was coming eventually?
I mean, I think it could be both at the same time because, Knoxville was heavily controlling most of the first half. It felt like the majority of the half was played, down in the kicker's defensive end. Team was getting beat to a lot of second balls. It felt like, and it's one of those games where it kind of felt like you're playing against 13 simultaneously instead of 11v11. So definitely felt like it was coming, but the actual goal itself, I think this was one where you just kind of got to give a little bit of tip of the cap, credit to their striker, whose name I'm not going to try, right now. Stu sends in that cross, but the dude's able to like really kind of contort his body and kind of flare his hips pretty quick and still get off shot with enough power to get past Shello at the far post. Like sometimes it's a good shot.
Yeah, and I was watching a hot. Kate, do you have any thoughts on real quick before I talk?
No, I think the momentum of the first half was on their side. The kickers were attacking towards the sectional end, and we saw them like 4 times in the first half. It was not the most fun to be a Richmond Kickers fan in Section O. So I would them scoring was not surprising just based on how play, the momentum, and how it was a testament that they did only sort of one off of a pretty great strike as opposed to picking apart the defense or sort of battle of attrition. The defense remained pretty strong under the pressure.
It felt like kind of a typical like bad version kickers attacking half where okay, still get a couple of chances, but they're all coming off of corners or free kicks because did come close. Like Dak, had that one header. I think it was off a free kick. Might have been a corner. Can't remember which one. Where he.
Oh, you talking about the one where the goalkeeper kind of like parried it down the middle? Yeah, that came.
Yeah, if he heads it like even 6 inches to either side, the keeper I think is in and just happened to be right over his head and allowed him to be able to head it, and then the wind was so heavily pushing in that direction, especially in the first half. A couple of the corners like Maxey, took a corner, ended up going out on the other side. That's because the wind took it. If wind's not there, I wouldn't rule out Maxey going for the Olympico himself. Right there, and it looked like could have hit, but the wind just took it too far in that scenario. So, but there's that kind of stuff, and not much from actual open play being created.
And I imagine Maxey in that moment, like, oh yeah, I can try this.
And Griffin actually had a few opportunities, which speaks well to his positioning. I think obviously it's definitely different. I haven't seen him get too many opportunities on set pieces yet, and I think he was the player who the ball coming towards at least twice off set pieces. So that's something that takes some experience to maintain your composure. When you're, I think, often talk about sometimes at this level, you can see them seeing their name up in lights before they've even taken the shot, and it goes over like 20 feet over. So that sort of sense of like, oh my gosh, if I get this right, like I'm already celebrating the goal in my head. So I think there's a lot of pressure when the ball is sailing towards you like that. And I think he got a few good touches, but I think one went wide and one, I think he sort of miscontrolled it. So I'm excited for his positioning to see that he's getting in the right places. And hopefully if he gets a few more opportunities like that, he might get one in.
Yeah. The overall thing I've been hearing from y'all is like, it was kind of like a game with had two halves. So like in the first half, it seemed like the kickers were pinned in. Like, why do you guys think that was? Like, why did it seem like the kickers weren't able to make the game a little bit more even in the first half?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different things that come into it. One is a little bit, the team that was picked, kind of like, well, it was all the same guys, from the Greenville game the previous week, except for, Dak was in for Cole. But it's not a really, overly attacking group, that's out there and that, set up. Like, we've talked about Chandler being like the attacking defensive winger. Suko, I think, is more of a midfielder, at heart. So we got Neil trying to push forward, and then Maxey willing to bomb forward, but everybody else is probably a little bit more naturally, defensive minded in nature. Ryan Sierakowski, wasn't as effective this game as he was, in the Greenville game. He was kind of like a lot of the other games, or whoever's been at center forward, kind of stuck out there on an island, left on their own, with not much support, up there. And so I don't know, why this keeps happening this way, but it feels like almost whoever's in that center forward spot from the start doesn't play well, and whoever comes in later on is able to kind of see what's happening and start to be more effective. And whether that's Simmons, whether that's Bashua, whether that's Sierakowski, it hasn't seemed to matter. It's more the pattern of first half struggle, second half into the second half, substitution, and then things start to flow a little bit better. Again, an exception or two along the way, but we're what, 10 games in now?
Yeah,
9 or 10 overall. It's, I think, enough to start to be a little bit of a pattern.
I think also from this lineup, again, a lot of the players, like there were a lot of central midfielders on the field, even though they weren't playing in the central midfield. Like FOTMOB has O'Dwyer, Vaughn, Moran, Suko as a midfield four. All four of those, I think, have played more time in the central midfield than they have anywhere else. So, and then Neil is also going to try to play centrally as well in the attacking role. And Sierakowski was on the wing a lot. He was not actually like sort of holding the center of the, he was on the wing. Suko was also coming down the other wing. So it also, speaking of what matches positionally, there was a lot of central midfielders on the field. And I feel like even though Sierakowski was like, I guess positionally the target man, it actually feel like he actually like stayed in the middle of the field against the center backs, like as a target player. It felt like he was facing sort of running onto balls down the wing as well. So it didn't actually feel like there was anyone in the middle up top for play to run through. And I wouldn't say, I think Chandler's been, I like Chandler more when he's in the box rather than dribbling into the box. I think Suko also is not a naturally someone who's looking to take players on the wing and like with pace run down the line, which he was forced to do a lot in this game as well. So it just didn't actually feel like there wasn't that natural player sort of staying in the middle playing as a target player. It felt like the ball would sort of get forward. There'd be one in the middle, like a lot of players like with that sort of defensive mindset. I don't know. It just there wasn't for Neil to really link up with. Like just in general, it was like a lot of central midfielders and no one else.
Yeah. I want to actually ask this question. Do you guys kind of feel like it's just based on the first half and how Darren kind of made this lineup? Do you think Darren is kind of just looking at it from a sense of like, if I can hold this game off 0-0 to halftime and make the subs, because maybe we got guys coming back who can't start, but my bad. I know I can get 30 minutes out of, right? Like a Adrian Billhart. Do you think that's how Darren's looking at it? Like, if we can hold the game 0-0 and make the game tight, slow it down, even with the central players I have playing wide or whatever, like you were describing, Kate. Do you think that was kind of like his thinking in the first half?
I could see it.
I think it's possible because that was kind of the Loudon, blueprint as well.
Yeah.
Of probably not a nicer way to make the sound than muck up the game in the first half and try to make sure nothing too bad happens. Work better against Loudon than in this game, and then put on what guns we have in the second half. I think part of it is even with some of these guys coming back. I think we're seeing what players Darren trusts and who he doesn't yet.
Yeah.
Based off of who's starting to get the calls off the bench and who is not.
Anything else in the first half that I might have missed before we move on to the second half?
I just thought Shello's distribution was really good throughout the game. He was under a decent amount of pressure, but he played the ball long a lot, which we didn't see a lot last season. And his long ball distribution is also, I think it's very good. Like, I think he hit a kicker's player often than he didn't with his long balls. So that was nice to see, like, under pressure, not being afraid to hit the ball long, but it not feeling wasteful, not feeling like clear it at all costs. Like the ball was actually intentionally going to someone. So it was nice to see that there was that sort of outlet available. His, I think, short ball distribution is very good, but I think he has long ball distribution in his locker as well, which is helpful in a half and you're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, he was 6 of 14 on long balls. I just looked it up. I was gonna bring that up. Moving on to the second half, Matt, bringing up what you were talking about earlier, like it's a game in two halves. Like in the second half, you could really tell the kickers kind of, I don't know, like take the momentum and kind of flip it on his head from what it was from One Knox. What do you think led to? Like, what did Darren say to these guys at halftime that changed the complete momentum of the game? Because it seemed like the kickers created more chances. It was a lot more dangerous going forward than they were in the first half.
Yeah, I think you said, Adrian, go on the field. You're playing.
That's what it was. The flyer. By the way, I love the meme that you post every time he scores.
Yeah,
I love it. If you haven't seen it yet, listen. It's the Rocky meme where he just yells out, Adrian.
What better?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, if there's a better one, I'm open to it, but that's what I could think of when you first scored, and you got to stay committed to the bit.
Yeah, there you go. You just need to get on a shirt now. We just need to get that picture put on a shirt for you.
Yeah, or just get, some kind of like really crap Photoshop of his face, on top of, the other Adrian's face.
I'm not trying to laugh. But now you got me thinking. Because now, oh, yeah, we got to do that. You got to do that. Yeah, we got to do that.
What were we actually talking about? Oh, what changed?
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, look, it sounds simplistic, but I do think Bill Hart, on the field makes this team completely different and far more dangerous. We've talked about this before. You have somebody who can actually really be able to connect better with Neil, and then when you add Zhao, who comes in the second half as well, another person with an actual mind for an eye for attacking, and it can help to unsettle guys. I mean, you look at this some of the stats for the game, and like who like the individual shot leaders were. Bill Hart playing half the game, led the team in shots. Right? Yeah. And it's not just this game. We saw it happen in the Loudon game. We've seen it happen in plenty of the other games. When he's on the field, team tends to perform better. And So yeah, I think that's the big change is we put the guy who's probably been our MVP this year on the field, and better things happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, seeing Adrian out there, I mean, it just shows you like how much injuries the other team is like hampering because we've seen the games in which Adrian hadn't played, and you can tell the team was like, oh, like creation on the wings is really, really hampered. When he's out there, I don't know what it is, but it's like the defense. It almost I call it the Emmy effect, where like the whole defense just shift towards him, and it creates holes and pockets for everyone else to kind of like Neil, for instance. You could tell like in the second half he started getting on the ball a little bit more and dictated play because now, One Knox defense has to focus more on Bill Hart because of how quick he is in the counter attack.
Yeah, and I think Arthur coming into moving Sierkowski back out to the left wing, kind of rebalance things a little bit more. He did pretty well. I don't know if he was man of the match like the team was trying to say, on all their social media. It's like that
Hey,
felt like a bit much, but
you got to give it to
yeah,
the black man. He did work. He did his job today. He showed up for it. He is a black man. He is from Africa. Me and Arthur are the same. Okay.
I think you've. Well, I'm not going to touch any of that right now.
I'm derailing this podcast. Finish your point.
He played well. I mean, he almost had a nice bullet header, near the end. But it just respaces the team. I think better than when Chandler and Suka are there and they're pitching in a lot more. When Ryan and Bill Hart are out there, they're not like like ankles on the line wingers or anything by any means, but they're a lot more willing to play. I think wider and be able to take people on out there.
Yeah. K-Man, I want to ask y'all this. Like, do you think One Knox in the second half kind of was just like, all right, we're up 1-0. We can kind of sit back, let Richmond have the ball and kind of let them play around with it? Or was it Richmond like, no, like we're going to fight to get ourselves back into this game for the second half?
One Knox definitely played up maybe the contact a little bit. That there were definitely some soft contact. I don't know if that was intentional, but like if that was an intentional strategy. I don't watch them throughout. I don't know if maybe they're doing that week in, week out, but they definitely seem to like try to slow the game down maybe in other ways. But I think they are a good team. We could see that from the first half, but I think at this level, you can up the intensity. I think kickers upped the intensity, and you can kind of disrupt any team's momentum well enough. And I think that it felt more like kickers turning the screw than maybe a choice by One Knox to sit back. Mostly because it was more the energy, and I think that's one of the difficulties with being like a team with two halves is sort of like, aren't you in control of your energy levels the whole time? Like, aren't you as a player and as a team, like the energy and the intensity at which you're playing, like something you can control sort of minute 1, minute 9. So it definitely just felt like they were competing for first balls more often, getting the ball in play a lot more quickly, just recycling the ball and moving it up the field more quickly. Maybe that just is a side benefit of the personnel being higher quality, but it definitely felt like the intensity upped, especially the second half. I think the kickers had considerably more shots in the second half than One Knox did. So it just felt like more so than any like specific passages of play, just the intensity and the energy just stepped up and stayed. Like kickers did not draw. Kickers went for the winner even after scoring in the 92nd minute, it wasn't like, okay, great, we got our draw. That there was definitely that hunger of we could actually get out and win this if we get the ball up the pitch again and again and again.
Yeah, speaking about that goal that got us back into it, Stewie Ritchie, former kicker, assisted on the goal that gave One Knox the lead, but also kind of forgot how to defend on the goal that gave kickers the draw. Matt, you were there in person, so I'll let you describe it a little bit better than I would. But is it just as simple as Adrian realized that Stewie wasn't trying to mark him and just was like, oh, there's open space. Let me go head this down into the ground and go win this or go tie this.
Well, he was probably just chatting with them, out there when Joel and the guys were passing the ball on the other side of the field. It's like, hey, bro, really love what you're doing with your hair. Tell me a little bit about how you got this done. So Stu was like, hell yeah, dude, let's talk about my hair right now. It's super fly. Gets into that. Adrian's like, oh, you thought I was serious. I want to go run away from you because you look like crap. And by the time Stu realized what was going on, it's all over.
Yeah.
Because Stu Ritchie's hair, I mean, credit to the man. He's got a big old head of hair, but what the hell is that?
I don't know. Is it a mullet?
A really fluffy mullet.
That is y'all culture's thing. Is that what y'all call it? Is that a mullet? I don't know what you describe it.
I don't know.
It was, but it wasn't like tight. Like, it wasn't like trimmed at the neck. There was like a slight, there's a slight shape to it, but
there's like a mullet. There's like a mullet fro, kind of.
Yeah.
A what?
There's like, imagine like a hybrid of a mullet and like like a white guy fro.
Oh my god!
Like,
you know how all the white boys, they're getting perms now?
Yeah.
It was almost like he was permed a little bit too. Those curls aren't always natural.
Yeah.
White boys are getting
credit the man. You got very nice, thick head of hair. As somebody who doesn't anymore. Credit, right there. Like, enjoy it while you got it, my man. But yeah, there's some wild choices, but yeah, appreciate you not following your mark and making it really easy for Adrian to score.
Yeah,
props.
Yeah, I mean, this is now 2 draws back to back for the kickers. Do we feel positive about these draws? I mean, granted, like, we know the state of the team and everything like that, but like, do you feel like 2 draws against Greenville and against One Knox, teams that are top of the table in USL League One, that felt like, all right, if the kickers can get healthy, like, this team will be on the right track?
I think they could be.
Yeah.
Like, still need to see it come together a little bit more to be able to say, like, if they get healthy, they will be on the right track. But like, I feel like this game last year's team doesn't come back in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I feel like that team closes up shop and is like, all right, well, this ain't happening. Maybe they give up a late one instead of get the late equalizer. So I think there's a little bit of fight in the team right there, but at the same time, I mean, how many more guys do we have come back that are going to really affect the attack? Emmy?
Yeah, Emmy's the big one. I
feel like everybody else is a defensive player.
Yeah.
Unless I'm just blanking on somebody entirely.
No, I mean,
okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, we only saw maybe 2 halves of Tony, if I'm thinking straight.
At most.
Yeah, maybe 2 halves of Tony. But yeah, Emmy's more so the big one. Outside of that, it's more so the defensive players. But we know, like, this team has had struggles trying to keep clean sheets this year. And it showed a little bit better this year, but I'm imagining Darren is looking forward to having a fully healthy Nathan Ani, a fully healthy Guy Franklin. By the way, how did Guy play in the game? Because I saw he was on the field.
He was fine. So I couldn't totally tell at the end if they had switched like fully to just like 3 in the back and pushed Simon higher. too, because well, we weren't defending too much, like consistently, so you couldn't really see how things shaped up at that point. But it was the typical move, Maxi, up the field, a bit late in the game. Guy was in there, ostensibly as a left back, but it might have been more as like a left center back, depending on again how things were technically playing out. But I thought he was fine. Like,
Okay. I'm imagining there's probably in the next 2-3 games, Guy probably gets a start. Ani probably gets back in there. And that's where we probably see the full fruition of the defense that we thought it would be with Maxi, Ani, Guy, and Simon. Like that front four, probably would. I'm imagining you probably give Dakota a break, just because Dak been playing those games. They just coming back from injury. Probably sit him for like a game or two.
I mean, I just had like 2 weeks off.
Oh, this is not true. Well, no, I'm just saying, like, set him because he just came back from injury.
Yeah.
I'm branching Darren to somewhere, just like, just please get healthy. Just please get healthy. Anybody comes in there with like any slight choice of a limp, he's like, oh God. But yeah, like I'm imagining if, let's just say if Emmy's 6 weeks out, right? Like this team probably looks a lot different. It probably plays a lot different. Like, in 6 weeks if Emmy's healthy. It's not a bad call. Outside of that, I mean, like, we know this. My bad. We know that 8 teams get into the playoffs for USL League One. Do you think right now, with the way how the season is going and how it started, the Kickers are what, 1, 2, and 3? I think as a record, like one. If I'm looking at this,
do you like to say draws before losses or losses before draws?
Oh God, yeah, that's the fun part.
1 win, 2 draws, 3 losses.
There we go. So right now, 6 games played in the league. Do you think the main thing is like for the Kickers to get healthy, probably around game 9 or 10, is stick around that playoff line, like around that 8th spot, just hovering around it, and then just be like, look, just go from there and just kind of let it go on?
It's hard. I think what's really difficult is how many league games did we lose this year? 10, 8? Like that, a significant proportion of the sort of season has now been taken out of the playoffs equation. We're still playing them, but they're not counting towards the playoffs anymore. So Kickers play, I think they play away from home from July. July 3rd is the last league home game until like September. There's maybe one home league game like September 28th or something. So they go on a really long away league stretch as well. So I don't know. It feels like the calculations of the last few seasons of where you need to sort of click into gear is kind of all out the window. And they're not going to be playing at City Stadium. They're not going to have the crowd for like 2 full months in the league. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's much margin for error. There doesn't feel like we can kick it down the road, I guess, to like midsummer and hope. So I like how the team is looking, but it's obviously a massive improvement off last season. Some of the teams at the top are pretty
it's tough right now. Okay, because like you're saying, like all these cup games just make it really hard to predict and gauge how anything's going to play out right now, because it's not like MLS did with the Leagues Cup where they just stop everything else for a month, play that other tournament and then come back. These games are seemingly randomly interspersed, like this next week back to the cup again, and then back to the league and then back to the cup, and it's kind of helter skelter.
And they're different calculus. You can play for. I do wonder, playing for draw, it's like you're getting free penalty practice. How often do you get free penalty practice? like at the end of a game. So our team's going for the win because you win penalties, you're only 1 point off. Like there's not too much incentive. There's like barely any gap between drawing a game, winning on penalties, winning anyway. So there's not even like this massive, oh, we have to fight. We have to have that like fight to the end mentality that you do in a league game. Because I was thinking that like, it's honestly, how often are these players going to get to like almost simulate a meaningful penalty shootout and get the penalty practice in that they might need come the playoffs, come Open Cup at some point in their career. So it's almost like maybe teams aren't even that upset about playing for a draw, having these games end in draws, getting to practice penalties in a sort of simulated pressure position. I don't know if your calculus in these games are very different league to cup, so you can't even necessarily build momentum in the same way. You could, but you also couldn't. You have to.
And the other weird thing going on is there's just such a bizarre imbalance in games played across this league. Right now, like kickers have played 6. So right now, they're in 8th place. They're ahead of Lexington on you know goal difference, but that's a fake 8th place right now because Chattanooga's sitting 1 point behind with 3 fewer games played, and I gotta imagine they're gonna get something out of those 3 games in hand. And then you got Omaha up there. They only played 4. Let's be real. We're not competing with Omaha for a place in the table this year, so that's kind of irrelevant. But then you look at like the home and away splits. Like Kickers already played 4 home games. Chattanooga's played 1. NoCo hasn't played at home yet, because I don't know why. Because I thought they had their stadium stuff figured out this year, but I guess not. Who knows? So there's just a lot of weird stuff going on, in the league. Makes it hard to project, but yeah, there's only 16 league games left, and there's probably some tough ones that might be close to write-offs already that still have to go and deal with. So they need to start putting wins on the table at some point, so that way it's not clawing, scratching, because I think if I had to guess right now, they're fighting against the Tormentas of the world for that last playoff spot.
Yeah. If the playoffs were to start today, the Kickers would actually be in it. Like we would be there, but we would be going on the road to
Well, it'd be in, but that's because Chattanooga's played half the games.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, man. This is how the league decided to do it.
I'm just laying out reality for folks.
And Chattanooga forfeited their games. They didn't really. They just their own feel so. So I mean, if you look at all that, like with that, like I feel like this Kickers team has yet to kick on yet because there's been a lot of quote unquote positive draws out of the last 5 results. If you remove the Spokane game, like the last 4 have been draws, but they all felt like positive in a sense. Does that make sense?
I think I get what you're going for.
Yeah. Like they felt like the team has fought back, turned losses into draws, but we haven't yet been able to turn those draws into wins. So that's feel like that's the next step.
Yeah.
For the squad.
Last season, we talked just much about mentality and how mentality felt like it led to like collapses where instead we were the team losing. We were the ones giving up the game-winning goal or giving up the equalizer. So it is nice to, from just a mentality perspective, to be like in it to the end, to be in a draw and have win on penalties, that sort of thing, because mentality, is kind of the different. It is one of the biggest non-tangible factor teams can have is how they react to it in a crisis or facing adversity. So it's I'd prefer late draws than and winning in penalties than the opposite. It's good. It's a good trend. Trend now needs to continue.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, it's kind of like we're at the 10 game point of the season so far with the Kickers, where it feels as if like they're very close, but they're not. Yeah, let me ask y'all this because I'll step out for y'all. Like at the 10 game mark with the Kickers, how do y'all feel about the squad so far?
This is great for an audio, broadcast right now. But for those not watching the video, all of us are like biting our lips with like kind of a puzzled look on our face. Like
that's honestly, that's what I feel like, because I feel like if you look at the kickers in his first 10 games, it feels like a glass half empty, but I'm not looking at it from a negative perspective. Whereas like I look at this team and I'm like, all right, I know this team isn't full. Like, we're just starting to get Guy and Audie back. We haven't seen Emmy on the field. Tony's been missing for significantly 9 games of the season so far. And with that is like, all right, your team has fought back to turn losses into draws, or, draws into wins. This team is scoring. This team is creating chances. But then on the flip side of it is like, well, we haven't had a clean sheet in the league yet. Our clean sheet became our only 2 clean sheets a year have came against teams that are lesser quality than us. The goalkeeper right now, let's be real, like the goalkeeper situation is up in the air. Is it Shallowy who's the number 1, or is it Jara? Either or. Kate just went away because she's confused. So yeah, that's where it kind of feels like it's a juggling act right now. Not a juggling act, but it's hard to tell right now, even with 10 games.
Yeah, they're not bad, but I don't know if they're good. Well, I'm pretty sure they're not at good stage yet.
I would say this team was a lot better than the last year's team.
A lot better than second half of last year's team.
There you go.
Yeah, first half of last year's team was still top half the table, and this team has not shown that yet.
No.
So
it's also reliant on one player, which
that checks out to past. Just a different guy this year.
Yeah. So yeah, like how do y'all feel about it with 10 games so far this season? Like,
yeah, not bad. Just like I said, a few minutes ago, they got to start turning some of these into wins because we're already more than a quarter way through the league season, and 1 win a quarter isn't going to get the job done in the long run. I don't think.
No.
Yeah, I feel better than I did during preseason. I feel like pleasantly surprised compared to how they looked during preseason. But I'm still not, I don't think I'm going to hold my hands up and say, I should have picked them to finish top 4 or top 6 sort of thing. Like I think I was mentally catastrophizing a little bit just based on the fact that we spent 6 months with absolutely zero willingness to change and look for results. So just off the baseline that results seem to matter this season, and that finding a result by any means necessary seems to matter more than it did last season. That is an improvement that I was worried we weren't going to have evidence of. So I'm pleasantly surprised to be wrong in that regard, and for the team to be looking better than they did during preseason and during the first 2 matches.
All right. Well, yeah. So the next game the Kickers got coming up is a Jägermeister game against Chattanooga FC.
Don't call them that. You'll start off a big old internet thing by saying that.
That's what I said. Chattanooga Red Wolves. There you go. Please do not come for me. Yeah. So we got that game coming up next. Real quick, we know how Chattanooga's been for us. It's been a house of horrors. Can the Kickers get a win here?
Penalty win?
Still is a win.
I mean, last week we said it wasn't, but
hey, that's a win.
All right, this time it counts.
Yeah, this time it counts.
I can maybe see that.
Okay.
I'll be fair. I haven't watched Chattanooga yet this year, so don't really know.
Yeah, no. Do we think Ani or Guy gets a start in this one?
Maybe Franca getting a start. Like I would think we see the progression. Ani gets some sub minutes before he goes into the starting lineup. That seems to be what he's done with a lot of the other guys who have been coming back. Ease them in rather than just go full in. But
yeah,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, because I think Beckett is still recovering from a hamstring, so we haven't seen him yet. Landon, I think, might have a knock. So that's why he's been on the bench, hasn't played yet. So maybe so. Last question. Do we have a goalkeeper controversy on our hands? Not controversy, but do we have a solid number one in our hands, or do we have two capable number ones? Does Shallow gets to start against Chattanooga again for the third straight week in a row, or does he go back to Pablo?
I can see Shallow. Pablo is. I think he and his wife just had their baby, or did they just announce? So he could be going on paternity leave at some point. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have, knowing that you might have a pretty considerable absence coming up for who was ostensibly the number one, to have who was ostensibly your number two, given more game time to either prepare or offset that.
All right. Well, yeah, should be fun to see. Matt, Kate, anything else you have before we wrap up?
I mean, I think you would have been excited if you had been at the game, because it's almost positive Maxie was going to, literally get into a fight with some guys on Knoxville at one point.
Okay, so I heard about this. Was there a fight after the game? Did I miss this?
You did, I
Didn't
did.
see anything after, but during.
Yeah, Maxie's my boy. I like Maxie.
At one point, they both went down, and Maxie started to get up, and I think Zaka pushed him back down. Like, nope, stay down. If we can get a red out of this, like, stay on the ground.
Oh man!
Head grip in the face, both of them rolling around on the ground, and Zaka was like, "No, you are not. You are not pretending you're okay. Get down there and fake a broken nose."
So maybe Maxie's the Kendrick.
Probably so. Probably is. Maxie is the Kendrick of the Mystery Kickers. That's how we end this podcast. Yeah. So listeners, next weekend is going to be a busy weekend in Kickers folklore. Well, in Richmond soccer folklore. We got the Richmond Ivy got their first inaugural game Saturday at 6 p.m. against Virginia Marauders. And then we got a
Year Cup game.
Yeah. Jägermeister. I don't know why I played that. A Jägermeister game against that team in Chattanooga. That kick goes at what, 7 or 6:30,
I think.
Yeah. It's close. So yeah, we'll be pulling off double duty. So it'll be fun. If you haven't gotten your ticket yet for the Richmond Ivy, make sure you do so. I think there is a supporters meetup on the 9th. I won't be there for it because it is my wife's 32nd birthday. So happy birthday, Electa. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I got to be a good husband that day. Can't do soccer activities, or this podcast will no longer exist. So yeah. So with that being said, as always, for Matt and Kate, for Shannon and Gabe, once again, happy Cinco de Mayo. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to drink some water. Have a good time. For that, as always, we just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day. And we'll holler at you guys later. Where hopefully the next time we're chatting, the Richmond get a win in Chattanooga, and I can stop thinking about the house of horrors that is Red Wolves Stadium, because it sucks. And is there a stadium? I mean, is there a highway? And it sucks. Boo. All right. With that being said, folks, we'll holler at you later. Be easy and be safe as always. Holla.